and it appears in Göbekli Tepe, where we know it's more than 12,000 years old. Those same bag-like figures, bag-like symbols. So, this is where I need to talk, just for the last few moments, about cataclysmic events. It seems that an effort is being made to draw our attention to the period between 12,000 and 11,000 BC. Between 10,000 and 11,000 BC, between 12,000 and 13,000 years ago. That's what the astronomical architecture of Giza speaks to, of Angkor Wat speaks to, is that period. Why is our attention being focused on that period? And we're being told that something very important happened in the world then. And it turns out that something did. And it's the something that caused the Younger Dryads. And it's very recent research, just going back to 2007, that has given us the answers on this, which is that the Earth was hit by the fragments of a giant comet. Maybe not all of it hit the Earth, but large parts of it did. And the dating is now very secure. It's 12,980 years ago, give or take 5 years. It was a comet that broke apart, rather like Shoemaker-Levy 9 in 1994. Shoemaker-Levy 9, of course, ended up in Jupiter, which is very fortunate for us. In fact, generally speaking, it's very fortunate for us that we have Jupiter out there in the outer solar system, gathering in comets. Because if we didn't, there would be no life on Earth at all. Jupiter's huge gravity is responsible for sweeping up most of the comets that would hit the Earth. But 12,980 years ago, a comet did hit the Earth, and it hit North America, and it hit predominantly the North American ice cap, which at that time was 2 miles deep, causing initially gigantic flooding. There's been a kind of scientific controversy about this. I just passed through some of the scientific articles about it. It was a question originally, but it's now becoming absolutely established that this happened, and the Greenland ice cores, this is data from August 2013, the Greenland ice cores settled it. 12,980 years ago, a comet hit the North American ice cap, and fragments of it hit other parts of the Earth as well. The first effect was to liquefy huge amounts of the North American ice cap and caused gigantic flooding that went into the oceans and very rapidly raised sea levels. Then, the next thing that happened was the deep freeze that's called the Younger Dryads. And that happened because an enormous dust cloud is thrown into the upper atmosphere. And that dust cloud reflects back the sun's rays and stops the sunlight hitting the Earth. That's why we have the Younger Dryads from 12,980 years ago to 11,600 years ago, until that dust cloud dissipates. And what I'm suggesting is that that comet impact did not just kill off the Clovis people, did not just kill off hunter-gatherer societies, but was responsible for the obliteration of a high civilization that is remembered in myths and traditions all around the world, remembered in documents like the Dresden Codex, which speaks of its language so easily could be about a comet impact, and it speaks of flooding and flooding from the sky. But also, if you go to Iran, you get the other side of the story, where you get the story of Ariana Vallejo, the paradise of ancient Iran, where an advanced civilization existed and was destroyed not by a flood, but by a sudden radical deep freeze. And the Iranian Noah is Yima, and he's warned by the gods that the deep freeze is coming, and he's told to build underground structures to preserve against the freeze that's going to occur. Both of these scenarios, the flood and the freeze, fit exactly with what we know about the Younger Dryads. And so, what I'm saying is that this is the period from 11,600 years ago today. This is the period when the whole story of human civilization, as it is taught to us, supposedly unfolds. And we have this huge interruption before it called the Younger Dryas, and these cataclysmic events at the end of the last ice age. And my suggestion is that the myths are true, and that there was an earlier civilization, and that we are a species with amnesia, and that the destruction was so massive and so global in its extent, and so cataclysmic in its form, that we did have to begin again like children, with no memory of what went before, or perhaps a little memory that was passed down by survivors who established locations all around the world, Giza, in Indonesia, in South America, in Turkey. That's what I think Göbekli Tepe is. I think it's a place that was established by the survivors of lost civilization. That's why the agricultural revolution begins there suddenly overnight, just at the time that those Göbekli Tepe megaliths are being created, just after the cataclysm that caused the Younger Dryas to set in. That's when we get the origins of agriculture. Sudden innovation in agriculture takes place. It looks like it's an innovation that was done by people who already knew how to do agriculture, who were doing it somewhere else, not there in Turkey. So, to close, this is our beautiful planet. This is NASA satellite imagery. And this imagery is normally taken to remind us of the effects of electricity, and how it shows the developed areas of the world. See how bright Europe is compared with Africa. How bright North America is compared with South America. But what this image says to me, what it speaks to me about, is the fragility of our civilization. That our civilization, we take it all for granted. That it's here, that it's technological, that it's solved all these problems, that it's just always going to go on. But if we were to be confronted with a cataclysm on the scale of the cataclysm that caused the Younger Dryas, all those lights would go out, and they wouldn't come back on again. And you know the people who would survive? It's the people who are living in the dark areas, who haven't had to live with technological specialization, who have learned to fend for themselves and know how to do it. Our Western civilization is incredibly interconnected and integrated and based on specialisms. And none of us know how to do everything anymore. All of us know how to do our little bit. Food into the cities would run out in 3 or 4 days in the event of a cataclysm. Civilization is very fragile. The history of the remote past tells us that civilization is a fragile gift, and that it can be taken away at the whim of the gods. And much worse, in our case, our own behavior, our own incredible arrogance and pride and stupidity as a species, not cherishing and nurturing the gift of thousands of years of accumulated civilization, but fighting one another and filled with hatred and envy and competition and greed, the horrendous proliferation of nuclear weapons, the real danger of a nuclear war breaking out, much more like